He built an empire on one simple trick. He made people trust him before he destroyed them. For 15 years, no one saw it coming. Not the florist, not the mechanic, not the old woman who ran a tailoring shop for 30 years, and not my father. But he made one mistake. He humiliated a 17-year-old girl, and forgot that girls like that don't cry forever. Sometimes, they file paperwork instead. This is the story of how a filing clerk brought down a millionaire without breaking a single law. My father ran a bakery for 11 years. Every single month he paid his rent on time. Never missed, never late. The landlord, a man named Vance, always told him the same thing. Don't worry about a written lease, Daniel. You're family to me. My father believed him. My father believed everyone. That was who he was. Then came the month our bakery finally turned a real profit. The month we could finally afford to expand. That's when Vance showed up, not with congratulations, but with an eviction notice. He had sold the building behind our backs, pocketed the money, left us with nothing. No lease, no proof, no case. I watched my father sit at our kitchen table that night, staring at 40 years of memories packed into cardboard boxes. He didn't cry, he just went quiet, and something in me went cold. I made a promise to myself that night. Quiet wasn't going to be the end of our story. I wasn't stupid. I knew Vance hadn't just cheated us. This was his pattern. Small businesses, verbal agreements, trusting people. He picked victims who couldn't afford lawyers. People exactly like my father. So I decided to become the one thing he never expected: someone patient enough to outwait him. I got a job at the county records office. Boring paperwork. The perfect cover, because in those files, I found something Vance never imagined anyone would go looking for. Every property he had ever acquired the exact same way he took ours. Verbal leases. Convenient timing. Signatures that didn't quite add up. It wasn't illegal. He was careful. But it was a pattern. And patterns can be proven even when single incidents can't. By the time I was done digging, I had found 3 other families destroyed the exact same way. And none of them had ever spoken to each other. They didn't know they weren't alone. I was about to change that. Finding the others for 2 years, on my lunch breaks, I collected documents. Cross-referenced deeds. Traced dates. And one by one, I found them. A florist. A mechanic. An old woman who had run a tailoring shop for 30 years. I sat across their kitchen tables the same way Vance once sat across ours, except I wasn't there to take anything. I was there to give them back their voice. He did this to my father too, I told them. If we go alone, nobody listens. But if we go together, with proof, someone has to. It wasn't easy. People who've been humiliated once are terrified of being humiliated again. But I kept coming back. I kept showing them the paperwork, the pattern, the dates that didn't lie even when Vance did. Eventually, 4 families stood where one girl used to stand alone. Building the case, we didn't have money for a big law firm. So, I did it myself. Night after night I studied everything: property law, tenant rights, how to file a civil claim. I turned our kitchen table into a courtroom of paper. This wasn't one betrayal. This was a business model built on betrayal, and I was going to prove it, page by page, if it took me the rest of my life. The case took another full year. Vance had good lawyers, expensive ones, the kind money buys when you've spent a career taking other people's money. But he didn't have what I had: 15 years, 4 families, and a paper trail he thought no one would ever bother connecting. The courtroom the day of the hearing? I sat in the back of that courtroom, exactly the way I once sat at our kitchen table, watching my father go quiet. Except this time, I wasn't quiet. When the judge asked if any of the affected parties wanted to speak, I stood up. I told them about the bakery, about the smell of bread at 5 in the morning, about watching my father's hands shake as he packed away 40 years of his life because he trusted a man who counted on people like him to stay trusting and stay silent. I told them I didn't build this case out of anger. I built it out of arithmetic. Because somewhere along the way, I realized the only language men like Vance actually respect isn't fairness, it's consequence. The court ruled against him. Not just for us, for all 4 families. Real restitution. Real damages. A pattern of deception the evidence made undeniable. It wasn't instant. It wasn't clean. Collecting the money took another year of lawyers and appeals. But eventually, it came. My father got a check that didn't just cover what we lost, it covered what we'd earned in dignity, waiting for someone brave enough to add it all up. He used part of it to open a new bakery. Smaller this time. But this time, there was a lease. A real one. Laminated, signed, notarized, framed on the wall like a diploma. People ask me sometimes if I feel bad for what happened to Vance. I don't. I never took a cent that wasn't already owed. I never lied. I never broke a single law. I simply did what he never expected a 17-year-old girl to do. I paid attention. I waited. And I let the truth do what the truth always does when someone is patient enough to organize it. My father taught me kindness. But Vance taught me something else, something I needed just as badly. That quiet isn't the same as powerless. Sometimes justice doesn't come from shouting. Sometimes it comes from a girl with a filing job, a folder full of dates, and a promise she made to herself at a kitchen table nobody else was watching. That promise took 4 years to keep, but I kept it, and I'd do it again. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, because on this channel, every story ends the same way. The truth always comes out.